Welcome back to the best and last session of the day, Bitcoin mining. We'll talk about this a little bit more in a bit, but Gideon and Griffin will wrap up the day. We're going to start with Chad, but Gideon and I contributed an article to NAPE explaining why Texas is emerging as the Bitcoin capital of the world. And we're about to start the first talk with what we believe might be the largest Bitcoin mine in all of North America. And it is Riot's Whinstone facility. And we've got Chad Harris from Riot, or for Whinstone, CEO of Whinstone, who's out there in Rockdale every day building this. And you know, I think this talk, Chad's going to talk about how you build, not just in terms of kind of the nuts and bolts, but the mentality. And I think Rockdale is a use case or case study, really, is something that when people talk about how wasteful mining is, that the economic impact that Whinstone is having on a city like Rockdale is pretty phenomenal. So really looking forward to this talk. Chad comes down and contributes to the Houston Bitcoin meetup. Really appreciate, Chad, all that you do. And come on up here and tell people this. I'll let you tell people what we got on this video behind us. I think the reason why we did was because a lot of people don't even know what a mine is. They hear this concept mining, but they've never actually seen one. So we'll take care of that one too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm actually going to stand down here because I don't want to stand in front of the projector. So my name's Chad Harris. I'm the CEO of Whinstone US. It's owned by Riot Blockchain. We were acquired in May of 2021. This company started in my office with one miner and my son. I had no idea about Bitcoin, and I got in a commercial argument with a bank, and they froze my bank account, and they sued me. And I went to my youngest son, who had been buying Bitcoin since 8th grade, 2011, because they thought it was cool. And I was like, tell me about Bitcoin and tell me how you do this. What I found in the process of doing this, and you're gonna see behind that, is that I quickly learned that Bitcoin mining was about energy. I mean, it took me moments. One of the companies that sponsor here, Priority Power, there's a long-standing relationship with John Bick and I always say, John returned my phone calls when I was broke, and he returns them today, constantly. And what happened was John showed me a spreadsheet one day, and I literally, it like registered in my head. I was like, this is a business of energy that happens to have a widget called Bitcoin at the end. And so what I ended up doing was, through a series of getting ourselves to Rockdale, Texas, and it's a long story and I'm not gonna take you down there. It's written and talked about a lot. What I realized in building this facility, we were transferring energy into opportunity. And I think that's where the most important component is. We take energy and we transfer it into opportunity. And the first opportunity that we create is the jobs that are required to build this infrastructure. So what you're seeing here, these buildings, our shortest, smallest building is 63,000 square feet. Our first original construction on building A was 63,000 square feet because we didn't have enough money to build 2 buildings. And we were gonna put 64,000 S9s in one building. And the only way to do it was to go up. And so as you kind of look through this video that's gonna loop behind us, you're gonna see racking systems. We designed our own racks. We built our own racks because what we realized was that I found that the tax abatement and sales tax credit was more valuable to our company than hiring people. So I used the sales tax abatement savings and I put it all into people. Because the only thing that this business does, and that's the racking system, the only thing that this business requires is people. And I believe the biggest problem in Bitcoin mining that it struggles with today is people don't believe there's human beings working in this place. So I made a video the other day on March 15th, and I was very proud to say that we had hit our 195th full-time W-2'd healthcare 401k employee. And 453 full-time contractors that have moved their businesses to Rockdale, Texas to support our build. And so if you can imagine, if our smallest building, 63,000 square feet, our biggest building, what you're seeing right here, is a sprung structure. And I know there's a lot of people can't understand. They're like, oh, what's the carnival tents? So in a time where commodities were struggling, we had to have a solution to build a fast building, because obviously Bitcoin mining is about speed and scale, and sprung structures delivers a building in 7 weeks. And it takes 7 weeks to put it up. It takes you 7 weeks to pour the concrete, to be honest with you. And so what you can see here, this is our immersion system. So as you can see, like, we built our own PDUs, we designed our own tanking systems, and all of those things took place in Rockdale. One of the things that did happen recently that you may have read about, Riot acquired an electrical manufacturer company called ESS Metron. ESS Metron was with Whinstone on day one. The very first day that Lyle Terrio and I went to Rockdale to try to build this, they were there, and at 8 in the morning, we literally have a video of him saying, there's no way you guys can do this. And at 5 o'clock in the evening, there's this video, and he's like, I think you can do this, right? And so in December of 2021, Riot acquired them, because they've been an integral part in making this happen. A lot of people don't realize, like, so this substation right here has actually 800 megawatts of capacity built into it. We have 100 megawatt spinning reserve in the event one of the other structures go down. So in 183 days, we built the transmission, the interconnect, the first building, 63,000 square feet, the first substation, which was 300 megawatts, and turned the power on, and COVID. And we did it because, one, A, we didn't know any better. B, we had nothing else to do with our time. We'd burned our ships and went to Rockdale. And most people, and Gideon, I'm gonna give you all the credit, Gideon is 100% responsible for my success, because I was buying Huddle Ranch. And on July 8th, 2019, they rescinded the offer, and I was pissed. So what happened? I read an article and I went to Rockdale, and what did I do, Gideon? I built it. I know. I'm just joking. I always do that to you. But as you can see here, this is a process. Every piece of equipment you see, we did the opposite of what most people did. Everything we bought our own cranes, we bought our own delivery trucks. One of the biggest things that I always joke about in this type of construction, what do you do with the boxes? What do you do with the miner boxes? The miner boxes literally, if you can imagine, have 4 pieces of trash. Install 100,000 machines, now you have 4,000 pieces of trash to deal with. 400,000 pieces of trash. So we have our own trash service. We have our own crane service. We have our own maintenance team. We built all these parts into building this infrastructure, because what we learned was, in order for us to build this shelving, we needed 100 people to build this. And so what's one interesting fact about the shelving is we make one single cut. One 12-inch cut builds this entire thing. It's 950 feet long on each side. And it was literally designed in my office in New Orleans. And again, it was because we built our first shelving out of 2x4s. And we innovated and found, obviously you can look at it and tell it is unistrut. Comes in 20-foot lengths. 20-foot lengths. Okay, hey, 20-foot lengths, we're gonna build a building 20 feet tall. That's literally like how we did the deductive reasoning. It's like, hey, that sounds like a really good idea. But what we did along the way that I think is really interesting is that we continued to improve our product. So when you go to building 1, to building 2, to building 3, to building 4, all the way down to this very last building, I was really excited because we started pulling wire into the last building this week, is that we have built a modular electric system that allows us to transfer it into any other type of application, change the product, use immersion, however it is, it can go from any building now. And it's because we spent all the time doing it. One of the things, and if you haven't done immersion at scale, and we hadn't done it at real scale, and then we decided to do it at real scale for fun, it's more difficult than you think it is. You have hydraulic problems. You have air gets trapped in dry coolers, and you have all these things you have to work out. But one of the things that's really interesting about building this type of a system, you have the opportunity to create anything you want along the way. And so having teams in place to build this, I mean, if you can imagine looking across here, I think all of our new buildings have 23 miles of conduit because we put the conduit in the ground this time. We decided we didn't want to look at it. This substation has a continuous infinite bus that's charged at 700 megawatts. And you start thinking about it, a lot of people don't know that I bought all of this equipment that you're seeing here today. I bought it in October 2021. I purchased it well in advance of Riot ever purchasing, 2020, Riot ever purchasing us, because I at some point was going to figure out how to get the money to do this. Capital intensive, labor intensive, and it takes, meaning partners and team members to build these. And one of the greatest values that we've had along the way is as we created the jobs. So we created these jobs in Rockdale, and the social impact that's happened. And I was talking about it earlier. We've increased month over month, 25% sales tax revenue in Rockdale, Texas. The county, Milam County, 54% month over month. They've had more money come into their town. And now granted, BitDeer is next to us, right? So now they have two companies that are hiring and building and spending money. But ultimately what's happened is that checks have been written to the school, over $500,000 annually to help fund the schools. Those things are what drives this business and turns it from a, hey, you use power, and turns it into, hey, you create opportunity. And so one of the greatest things in building this entire facility that we've been able to do is we spent all of our time working on the community. The value that's been given back to us is 10 times more valuable than anything we've done. Because if you think about a town that has 5,500 and actually 5,590 people now, they actually grew by 90 people since I've been there. This town was riddled by industrial disaster. So Alcoa closed in 2005, Illuminate closed in 2008. They lost about 3,000 jobs total. The downtown lost all of its businesses. And so slowly but surely, life is coming back into this town. And what's happened is like from our very first employee who still works there, Emory, to our very last hire, which happened probably while I was here, all of those people now have high paying jobs, better health care, 401ks and all the things that are really important. So when we're arguing, and I'm going to use the word arguing with government, when we're arguing with government, it's no longer an argument about what we do, oh, it's wasteful. We're creating the opportunity that allows people to understand that this right here created the jobs, this created the money in sales tax, this created opportunity for families. It happened to end up with this really valuable asset in the end. Riot happens to hold it on their balance sheet. Everyone in this room calls it Bitcoin, right? And that is, I think, the real interesting part that people don't spend a lot of time talking about. So when you think, forget about the switchgear, forget about all those things, and you start thinking of where the value comes in here. And the value is our ability to transform a community. There's 254 of them in Texas. I know Gideon's working on it. There's 254 communities in Texas that need the same thing. That's actually kind of a cool picture, to be honest with you. And that is where this becomes important. So when you start thinking about building this type of infrastructure, what are the real things? Like, I know Priority Power talks about this a lot, that the start is you have to do a load study. You have to do an FEA with the transmission. So they have to do an upgrade. Then you have to get a long-term PPA, right? So those are all really important. But the parts that I think people miss is you need all the conduit in America. You need all the wire in America. You need all the electrical components you can get your hands on to be able to build these things. This business becomes the core component of, can you procure materials and hire intelligent people that can be retrained into a new component? I often, when I give people tours, and just to let you know, Parker and Unchained they're gonna send something out where they're gonna facilitate a tour to Rockdale so you can come, hang out, take a look at it, touch and feel all of this stuff. I talk about the immersion system a lot, and the picture will roll up here. And people say, oh, why didn't you stack them? Why didn't you go higher? Why didn't you make it more dense? The future employee that we believe will be the most beneficial to this business is going to be a single mom. I know that sounds crazy when I say it. So a single mom, because a single mom will do one thing, anything to provide for her family. She needs a good paying job, she needs healthcare, and she needs retirement. We designed our immersion system to be at a height that didn't have any barriers of entry, was safer, because obviously if you know anything about the dielectric fluid that's in there, it's like a slip and slide. So you're not up on lifts, it's at a lower point. We put a breaker at every single miner that makes it very easy to train anybody to work on it. And we're seeing single moms being our #1 employee. Abby Vasquez is like the perfect example. She started building the shelving that you saw. She was building shelving in building A with no building in place. And she moved herself and performed and did better and performed and did better. And now she's, runs all project administration. And it's those type of people are looking, they're ready to be changed. They want the opportunity for a new job. And so like these racking systems, it's kind of funny. In building A, we built the first 250 feet of this with no building because we were behind schedule and the building was being delivered late. And so as you can understand, everybody knows obviously you plug it into a network, there's an extension, there's electrical cord. I always joke, everyone's like, oh, this is our proprietary technology. I'm like, yes, you plug your network cable in with your left hand and your power cable in with your right hand. That's your proprietary technology when you're doing this. But when you kind of sit here and you look through this process, you can see the change in the buildings, right? You can see where we single stack transformers in the beginning. You look towards the end now, you see on the building F, we stacked 4 up. We stacked 4 up because along the way we learned that we could create more efficiency in power by reducing the distance from transformer to switchgear to operations. And what's happened is it's just because we did it. We didn't know to do it, we did it. We researched it, tested, and the process that comes along with it, obviously like smart breakers, that's a very important component to this. But the process that comes along with it, you have to hire the best people. And like our company, Riot Blockchain, we are looking for the absolute best people, even if it's not what they do. Like literally, even if it's not what they do. And so the process, obviously, from immersion is very simple. We originally had a building that had about 20,000 miners in it that we moved from air to immersion. And a lot of people also ask why we don't have 4 immersion buildings that we're building. The simple answer is we can't get enough parts. We can't get enough pumps. We can't get enough heat exchangers. So we were able to buy 200 megawatts, and then we were going to build 200 megawatts worth of air. So when you look at this system here, we have a 3-tank system. So there's 3 tanks in one single line. We have a failure rate of 1 machine or 32 machines in 1 tank. So meaning it can go from 1 to 32, but it's not more than 32 machines. Every tank has its own heat exchanger. Every tank has its own pump. The heat exchanger extracts the oil. Obviously, extracts the heat from the oil. We use the dry cooler and a pump to cool the heat exchanger with water. And we run the oil temperature is averaging, they did an average today on a bunch of tanks. The oil temperature is running about 70 degrees today. So it's running pretty efficiently. And interesting enough, we use a product by ExxonMobil. It's the same fluid that is in your shampoo, right? We don't recommend you drink it. And anyone that tells you to drink that stuff is insane. Your hands turn red, right? Long exposure, your hands turn red. So obviously, one of the other interesting components of this, what we didn't realize, here's the thing we didn't realize when we were building this business. We had to build a security company. We had to become a level 3 security company in the state of Texas. Because you can't use the word security in Texas unless you're one. You can't carry a gun on a facility and saying you're security unless you're level 3. We had to create an entire safety team. I think we have 22 people in our safety team. All they do is go around and say, you can't do that, right? Literally no, Chad, you can't climb up on that. I was like, yeah, just be a minute. I'm taking a picture. Like, no, you have to get down. We'll get reported to OSHA. It's those kind of things. We didn't know, we knew to do it, but we didn't know about it. And so along the way, we have somebody that runs security now, somebody that runs safety now, somebody that runs logistics. Our logistics teams works 24 hours a day. And that is how anyone that ever wants to know how we built this so fast, we work 3 shifts a day, 24 hours, 7 days a week. We take any shipment, anytime. And if they can't get a hold of somebody, they have my cell phone, and I will meet them there and unload those trucks myself. And so in theory, we work in 1 day what people work in 3. And that's the key. Most people aren't willing to do it. But to run these things efficiently, that's what it takes. So, I mean, it's anybody that has a question, like, I'm going to stop if you guys.
I have a comment.
Go.
God bless you.
Thank you. But I'm gonna respond with, and I say this all the time. You can read anything I I've ever quoted on. I happen to be the one, but there are 420 Riot employees that make it happen. I just happen to be the one that's not camera shy. But thank you very much.
Chad, love your passion. Can you explain more about why you decided to do the total vertical integration that goes basically against everything that every other startup does, where it's all about comparative advantage outsourcing? Explain that.
We control everything, period. We control our supplies. We control our labor force, everything. And that was the only way we knew to do it, which is backwards, but it works. No one's calling saying, I'm not coming. No concrete company is coming saying, we even buy all the materials for every one of our vendors. We control everything. Our only failure point is them not having the manpower. And so if you take all that burden off of them, and then the other thing, this is probably the most bizarre thing that we do not depend on our vendors to support our business on their receivables. I know that sounds crazy. We don't make them wait for their money. I am known up and down of sending money to people prior to them even having invoiced us, because I know the faster we pay, the faster we get, and the faster our name stays at the top, which is really, really an important part of our business.
My knowledge of energy and power is scale of 1 to 10 to -3.
Perfect.
Okay, so when I hear you talking here, and the other miners in Texas, growing industry, it sounds like you're going to reform the area. Well, isn't that going to increase your power costs over time?
So, and they're going to talk about, I'm confident, Gideon, you're going to talk about this, right? Another panel after. They're going to talk about this. But in short, we learned how valuable this facility was recently to the grid. We talk about it. We all talk about it. We're like, oh, you need this, you need this, you need this, you need this. And not turning off, not turning off because there's, demand or whatever it is for controlled load response, any of those things. We literally powered down 1 day because we were doing maintenance. We opened our breakers. We didn't disconnect from Encore. We opened our breakers, and Encore tripped all over the place because they hadn't done their upgrades. And our facility was supporting 6 cities: Temple, Rockdale, Cameron, Giddings, Hearn, and Thorndale. And I happened to be in a gas station when it went off. And I looked around and I was like, uh-oh. I knew what that meant. I was like, uh-oh. But the important component of it was Encore had 25 people there. They recognized that they had an infrequency problem on their settings. They made the connection. And then we sat down and worked on a plan. Anytime we were going to do those types of changes, we would notify them so they could do a test prior to that. And that's the day people started saying, hey, you actually have a really valuable thing. Whinstone is a 150 megawatt controlled load response center. It's a 50 or 63 megawatt LR center. So, we have lots of things that we do to support the grid, and that's actually how we control our power cost. Because we are like an insurance policy. Or, Trent Stout from Priority Power likes to call us a virtual power plant. He actually coined the term in a text message to me. You're a virtual power plant, right? And it's like, oh, it kind of stuck with me because that makes sense to you. We turn off, our power goes somewhere else. So actually, I think it lowers our power price. Because we're using it 24 hours a day, the generators, are generating more at a lesser cost.
How many blocks have been mined out of just this facility?
I couldn't even tell you. I'm the infrastructure guy. Like, I know, I joke about that. I was like, I'm the guy that builds the stuff. I'm the guy that builds the widgets. But I'm sure a few. Maybe a lot. Go ahead.
Can you comment on what percentage of your power usage is renewable and how this could determine the direction of whether it's natural gas or renewable sources?
Yeah, absolutely. So currently today in ERCOT, what is it, 33.4%? Anyone? I think, I looked the fact sheet up, I don't know, a week ago, but it's 33.4% is the renewable structure right now. I'm sure if Michael Skelly gets his transmission built, it'll probably go way up from there. But yeah, I mean, we literally buy from ERCOT. But we're all about, hey, give us 24-hour-a-day power, make it renewable. When you have that problem solved, we'll take all of it. But it's not there yet. We have some time. Go ahead. Absolutely. We actually, come fly a drone. I promise you, come fly a drone. It won't be in the sky. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, it won't be in the sky. I can't, but I will tell you, in addition to those types of things, I will also tell you Ford trucks don't start there. You have to actually put the key in, right? But that's one of the things. Besides that, besides the, 18 security officers, we have drone pilots that attack drones. Oh yeah, we have counter drone defense as well as frequency defense. Because we are on 33,000 private acres. No.
I wanted to ask about your site selection in Rockdale, because when the Alcoa plant was there, there's the huge, is it a nat gas power plant right there?
No, so the fast answer is, I read Wired magazine and how Bitmain had failed and like not done all these things. And I read it as like opportunity. All I have to do is go there and do it. But the Sandow switch is across the street, which is one of the largest interconnects in Central Texas. And we have paid over the last 2 years to do all the improvements so that it'd handle our load.
So being close to the plant and having your own substation is very important.
Being able to connect to the grid, the power plant's been closed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's been closed since 2008. Yeah. So being able to connect to the grid on an interconnect that was 1,608 feet away made it just fast. That's all. Anything else? I do this like all day long, trust me. I'll answer your question differently, right? Because that's what I'm good at, right? I believe that, so I'm hiring 500 more people right now. I need 905 employees at the end of next year. Those 905 employees will have a secondary job benefit of 2,306 employees additionally. And I am confident that on a government scale, if more people were transparent and were forward facing and gave the facts and had third-party economic impact studies done and provided them to people and looked at sales tax month over month and all those things, that I think that those conversations are a different kind of conversation. Like, hey, how do we keep you there? How do we keep you, like, here's stuff that we don't ever talk about. We have an entire training curriculum that we're integrating with the high school, right? We learned that 40% of those kids never consider going to college. 40% of them go straight to agriculture, and 20% of them maybe go to college. And so, hey, you can graduate, go work for a company, make $50-something thousand a year with healthcare and benefits, learn a new skill, and move. Like, oh, you learn something, there's something more valuable that you can do in the future. So I think those kind of things, creating that opportunity, staying at the forefront of it, being forward-facing, constantly in the public, telling them you're doing it, and then proving it with backup data is the way that doesn't happen. This is a real industry. Like, that's a business. That might mine Bitcoin, but that is a real business. And I know that sounds funny that I say it that way, but like that's a business. And I'm damn proud of our company. And now that I'm a Texan, I'm damn proud to be a Texan.